The Alias podcast.
All right, and we are a go. Welcome back, everyone, to episode 6 of the Alias podcast. I can't believe we're 6 episodes in. I've already done 5 of these now, and it's been a bit of it's been some time since episode 5. And there's a few reasons for that. I just didn't, it's not like I just gave up on the thing. There's a lot on my plate in the past few weeks, and I guess that's what this whole first part of the podcast is for, right? So what exactly has been going on since, It Chapter 2 and Post Malone? What have I been up to? Without a doubt, the thing that made me not record or put anything out the following weekend from that episode was school. I had a really, really big exam coming up, and that kind of just took up my entire weekend. And then from there, what stopped me from recording this past weekend, this weekend is just past now, was I had a trip planned for me and my friend. We were going to San Francisco. The guy that actually gave me this mic, good friend of mine, we were both going to go to San Francisco, and we had some business, stuff planned that we're going to do out there, business-related things. But he had a medical emergency, and we were not able to go, unfortunately. We were replanning that trip. Hopefully we can do it soon, but it just kind of fell through. And then also with that was, since I knew I was going on the trip, I actually let my friend, Colin, his name's Colin Hernandez, I let him borrow the mic because he's also planning his own podcast. I let him get a few episodes in. And, shout out to Turn the Dial. I was actually a guest on that thing. It's going to be coming out pretty soon, November 1st, so look out for that if you want to see me talk more about entrepreneurial endeavors and things like that. From there, I also want to talk about a big milestone this podcast hit. We got the iTunes approval, and it's finally on the podcast app, and that's something that I'm super happy about. That's something I wanted to do from the beginning. I wanted to get it on something like iTunes. I did kind of fumble the bag though, because the episode after I got onto iTunes, I wasn't able to keep up with uploading for the past few weeks or so. But we're back, and we're going to keep going and looking out towards the future in terms of what we got for the next few episodes besides this one. This is going to be more of a catching up episode because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. I think that's happened in the past few weeks. Looking out into next week, or I guess when this might come up, when this might be released, the Joker movie's coming out, and El Camino, the Breaking Bad movie, they're both coming out, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to have some guests on for that. And, in terms of release schedules, if things went according to plan, we were going to have a guest on for this episode, but, that all came down to if Kanye was going to release his album, and he didn't, but we'll kind of come back around to that a little bit later. So the podcast is now on iTunes. You can find it by searching my name, or you search Alias Media, and you'll find it. Pink icon, which is what the show originally started out with, and I've been changing it roughly every 2 or 3 episodes what the color scheme is. And yeah, if you guys want to watch it on iTunes now, you can or listen to it on iTunes. You can. You don't have to keep looking at it on a YouTube video. And then yeah, I'm gonna see if I can. I'm kind of debating, implementing video to the podcast, so something to look at potentially while you're listening. I think that's something that could keep a lot of retention up in terms of the viewer base, but that's something totally else entirely, and I don't need to go into the analytics of how I'm going to boost things for this outlet of mine. Another huge thing that I think I really want to share, and I'm not, I don't want to reveal too much, but I'm planning on, I'm in the early stages right now of putting together a short film. I have access to all the equipment, a boom mic, lighting kit, green screen, a professional camera, tripod. I have a stabilizer. I have all the stuff for it. I just need to film it now. I have Adobe Premiere for After Effects, things like that. So I'm super excited to finally get ready and start shooting. It also comes down to, most of the shots are going to be outdoors, and just keeping it general. the movie is going to be black and white. Or at least that's what's looking like. I want to make it a black and white film, and it's gonna be noir-esque. It's gonna have hints of noir inspirations from noir films or neo-noir films, because that's the genre that I love in films. That's something I always gravitate towards, and that's something I want to that's what I want to use to delve into this. And I want to make this professional as possible. I don't want this to come out and look amateur, and I'm gonna try to, I have some connections where I think I'll be able to submit it into film festivals, and I have a route that I think if I pull this off right, this could do great things for me and what I'm trying to accomplish with Alias. And this is, the first Alias productions in terms of a proper film production. So this is something I'm super excited about. And also, I guess going into that, just speaking about, filming and stuff like that, let's delve into the first topic, I guess I would say, is, a new iPhone came out, guys. And, it might not seem like a big update because aesthetically, it's still the same in terms of notch. The knot is still, no buttons on the front. There's still the notch. But they've still, so the design is still pretty much the same. But I actually had the iPhone 8, so coming to this was a pretty big jump. And what I actually ended up getting the iPhone 11 Pro, so it has 3 cameras. And, people joke it looks like a stovetop. I can kind of agree with that. But I'm loving this phone. I think, I made a conscious decision to stick with the iPhone 8. Because at the time I didn't think, what the 10 was bringing to the table was worth the $300 increase in price. But now going from the 8, and before that the 6S, and that would, there's no design change in between those two phones. So I felt like I was really just having the same phone for 4 years. Finally getting this is something I was super excited about. And, it's funny that, I'm saying, I'm trying to make a neo-noir film, black and white, because when Apple was doing their showcase for this, they showed off the, film, professional video qualities of this product. And they show, one of the things they showcased was, a black and white highlight reel, I guess, or film. And then right then and there, I was like, this is for me. Apple is advertising for me. So, I think raw video quality, and raw photo quality, I think this is probably the best phone on the, it's the best phone on the market. And the jump, I've seen the jump from the XS or the 10S to this might be the biggest jump in camera quality that I think I've seen from, year to year between an iPhone, especially the night mode. The night mode on this thing is, I'm shocked. I'm not iPhoneographer, but I was going up to, I was going all over the place just trying to shoot pics at nighttime, and I was coming up with some absolutely beautiful photos. And I think, I was actually thinking, like, what if I could get away and filming this short film on iPhone? And I sadly don't think I'm going to be able to. The only thing with that is because, if you've ever seen any quote unquote cinematic iPhone videos, the thing that causes them to not look maybe as cinematic as they really could is the depth of field effects on, the video camera, which, I really think that Apple or, really should start incorporating this, because if you can add these depth of field effects or, depth focus or fake depth of field and stuff like that, it's stuff that's actually, the camera does do, but only in the portrait mode, and incorporate that into video, I think that would help even furthermore, and I can still, add depth of field, and I can do those things with this camera. It's just that I need to go into After Effects and do it. So I have this situation where I do have a DSLR on hand, and I have access to a 4K camera. But so that I guess what I'm training out is the raw quality probably won't be as good on those cameras, with the DSLR because it's the older one. But I can get that depth of field effect and create that more cinematic look, as opposed to the iPhone, the raw video quality will be better, but I'm going to be losing out on depth of field effects unless I go into After Effects and add it, which I have done and I know I can do. So I'll probably be using the iPhone with the gimbal stabilizer for any tracking shots or any moving shots, and then, DSLR for any stable shots or, stagnant shots that I'm doing, where maybe the camera's still, but the characters are moving around and such like that. Next thing that I want to transition into is the Emmys. But and final thoughts on the iPhone 11 Pro. I think it's a great phone, best iPhone on the market for sure. If you really care about camera and battery life, and oh my god, the battery life on this thing is amazing. It's I'm on my second day of it. It's 7:24 and I'm at 8%. I charged it over 48 hours ago. This thing's battery life is amazing. So I love it. I love this phone. I'm very happy to have it. And the display is beautiful. The back is beautiful, and I love it. So yeah, going back. So like I was saying, going into Emmys, because those just happened. I just want to focus on the 2 HBO shows that I got to watch and have my opinion on. Chernobyl won Best Miniseries. Good. That's deserved it. That's what it should have. That's what should have happened. But the I'm gonna be honest. I heard a lot of hype around Chernobyl going into it, and I don't think it's at that echelon of best show of all time. Best. It's on IMDb. It's number one. I don't think it's at that level. To be honest, I had very hard time staying up with it in regards to that. There's only 5 episodes, I think, and it took me about 3 months to watch those 5 episodes. Because I'd watch 1 episode and then not watch that show for another month. Watch 2 episodes, not watch the show for a month. But I think the last episode is masterful. I think the last episode ties the whole show together, and it's without a doubt the best episode in the entire run of the show. So I'm glad it won the best miniseries. I also think Valeri should have won best actor. I thought he was. Or maybe not should have won, because to be honest, I don't actually know who won. But I think that him being nominated is just, I'm glad that happened, because really he was a great actor in that mini series. And all 3 of the main characters were nominated. But if there's anyone that could have won, I think it should have been Valeri. But whatever, the whole show won best miniseries, which I'm glad for. Game of Thrones, you hate to hear it, but even though I wasn't a big fan of season 8, if you look back in episode 2, when I talked about it, I said I wasn't. And I'm not surprised at all that it won. Because, people always say the last season of a show at the Grammys, that's his best chance to win the best drama or the best comedy. Because people look at it as we're giving out an Emmy for the entire run of the show. To be honest, I don't think that is how it should be viewed. At least not that award in particular. Because season 8 was a total mess. And I think what they should do, if they're going to have that thought process going into it, is they should have they should break the award up. I think they should have a best season, of the show, or then just best show, best ending of the show, or best show in total. Because if you're looking at just Game of Thrones as an entire show, it's going to be, it stands up higher than any of the shows that it beat. But if you put up that specific season, it's going to fall a little flat. And I think everyone knew that. But it won best show, and I'm happy for it. Good luck to everyone that was on that cast and is on to something else. Moving on, I wanted to also huge news, because if you guys remember hearing, I was not a big fan of when this happened. Spider-Man, he's returning to the MCU, and I'm so glad. And to be honest, I knew that's another thing. I probably sound like a absolute kind of arrogant idiot or whatever. I was saying, I told you so. There's also something I called, I think, early on, that Spider-Man was going to return to the MCU, and that whatever was going on with Disney and Sony, that was probably a high stakes betting move, by saying, hey, this isn't happening anymore, and then you get to see all this public rejection and denial of the fact that people want people want Spider-Man in the MCU, and we have an issue with it because Spider-Man's one of the most beloved characters, and you want to see him with everyone else. You want to see him lead the Avengers, because Far From Home built him up to be that guy, that he's going to be the character that is a successor to Tony Stark, and is going to lead everything onto the next era. He's going to be a big part of that, and especially that that twist at the end, that his identity is revealed. I think they very much intentionally set up a cliffhanger, so they could keep it going, and just if they had to play it off that he wasn't a part of the MCU, this variant of Spider-Man, his DNA is very much entwined with Tony Stark's, and the DNA of his character, that he's a part of the MCU, and taking that away, at that point you really should just start over, but people don't want to see that. People don't want to see a clean slate of Spider-Man. So I'm glad he's back. It's 25-75 now. Marvel gets 75, or Disney gets 75, and the deal is he's going to come back for one more movie, or one Spider-Man movie, and one MCU movie. I could speculate forever which potential movie it could be. I have no clue, because to be honest, I don't really remember what the slate is from Phase 4, but he's going to be in one of those movies. I think it'd be fun to see him in Love and Thunder, to be completely honest. But yeah, he's back. He's going to be in at least 2 more movies, and then we'll see what happens after that. I hope they find a way to keep it going, or just buy out the character altogether. But woohoo, Spider-Man's back, baby. And then I was talking about earlier on, that this episode might have had a guest, and sadly we were not able to get the guest this week. Maybe next week, or after, maybe even after that, we'll see. But we were trying to have a friend of mine, Peyton, be on for the show to talk about Kanye West, and that was gonna happen for sure. And we were gonna probably be recording today, and doing it, but you can't really talk about an album when there is no album released. And I'm not surprised at all to find out that Kanye did not release Jesus is King, because Kanye has a history of doing this. He has a history of delaying albums, saying it's going to come out on a certain day and just pushing it back, or at least he's had a history of this very recently, where it's just kind of getting really obnoxious. Last year when he did the surgical summer releases, or whatever you want to call it, he was actually pretty much on the money with those release dates, which I'm surprised about. Probably because he knew if you pushed any of them back, it would end up pushing everything else back, since they all released pretty much a week apart from each other. But not surprised that this happened, and I hope it released soon, because I really want to see what Jesus is King could sound like, even though just off the name, if the name is anything to go with what this album might sound like, I'm not the most excited off of that premise. And then finally, we get to talk about the thing that hyped me up the most, which is going to be The Last of Us Part 2. They've been quiet about this for a very long time. I think someone said 16 months, if I remember correctly. It might have even been 18. I don't know. Potentially. No. They talked about it a year ago. They just didn't show it at this E3 or anything about it. But 14 months, I would say. Yeah, I wanted them to show more at the State of Play presentation. Kind of disappointed that they didn't, but because they only showed 3 minutes, and the way they were hyping it up, I thought there was gonna be a lot bigger blowout in terms of footage that was going to come out. I thought there was going to be another demo that potentially came out of it. I thought that, you know, I guess that's kind of the main thing I really expected out of it besides what we already got. But, you know, we got a release date, February 21st, 2020, which, you know, I'm surprised they waited this long to announce the release date, and because that's very soon, actually. That's a lot sooner than, you know, a lot of the, you know, there's a lot of stuff that was announced at E3 that's coming out after that. So it's coming out a lot sooner than people might have thought. People thought it was going to be a PS5 game potentially. I definitely believed it was going to be a similar situation to Last of Us Part 1, where you know, it came out near the end of the PS3's lifespan, and it was kind of the swan song. So I think this is going to be the same thing. Part 2 is going to be swan song to PS4, which is always, you know, that's setting a high bar for it. But if anyone can reach it, it's Naughty Dog. The trailer was super cool. They finally showed Joel, and, you know, they've been showing him in a, I don't know if this is intentional by Naughty Dog, but they've been showing him in a really strange manner. I wouldn't be surprised if they were if they're portraying him in a very restrained manner. He's been in the original trailer. You don't even see his face, and then in this one, you see him. You know, you see him at the end of the trailer for about like 10 seconds, and, you know, it's understandable why people would have theories about why he's dead, really. The best way to put it, why he's dead, because they've been very careful about showing him off. I think that if, you know, they do kill off Joel early on in the game, that's going to be a huge mistake. Unless, you know, they find a way to really execute it well and the story continues on. I think there's a lot of, you know, not that they are working on a second game, I think there's a lot of stuff to dive into with both of those, with Ellie and Joel. And I think you know what Joel did in the last game. I think that's something that you need to see boil up throughout the entire story. And you know, they say part 2 is about hate and part 1 was about love and stuff like that. Part 1 is really about the birth and build up of their relationship. And I think if part 2 is kind of about the downfall of the relationship, you know, you seeing it fall apart because of, you know, this path that Ellie's going down, and this, you know, Joel's trying to look after her. I think if they go down that route, that's going to create a really interesting story. You know, seeing someone just go so far in revenge, you know, and their father figure, you know, is trying to look after them. I think that's going to be a lot better than, you know, maybe Joel dying early on and she's avenging Joel, because I think there's a lot of stuff that needs to go, important interactions that need to happen between those characters, and I don't see those type of things happening at the beginning of the game, per se. But I don't think he's going to die at the beginning. I think Naughty Dog is potentially playing into, you know, the Joel's dead theories by acting so subtle about it. Even though they do try to make it seem like Dean is the one who dies at the beginning of the game, I think they're smarter than that. But I actually think they might be also playing into the internet theory community. Gameplay wise, the game actually looks extremely familiar to Last of Us Part 1. Makes me question why it took this long to make it, to be completely honest. But, I mean, they worked on Lost Legacy and Uncharted 4 in the middle, so that would probably mean they've been working on this game for 4 years. Not even an entire 4 years, because they were also working on, you know, Lost Legacy, which came out a year later, so it's been 2 years since Lost Legacy, I believe. Yep, 2 years. So they've been working on this game for 2 years completely since Lost Legacy, which does not seem as long then. But they say the game is their longest game, which I'm excited about. But they also said in return for that, there's not going to be any multiplayer, which was a huge bummer for me. Sorry, just drinking water. I'm super thirsty. when they said that, I was kind of shocked because, since Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3, Last of Us, Uncharted 4, all those games have had multiplayer, at varying degrees of success, mind you, but I think they've all still, at least at the very worst, still been passably enjoyable. And even Last of Us, people say that multiplayer is tacked on, but I loved it. I loved, incorporating the story elements into the multiplayer. I think it worked out really well. So when I found out that there wasn't going to be a multiplayer, I was super bummed, actually. But they said that the multiplayer, almost sounding like it's going to come as its own game, is going to be coming down the line. Personally, I almost would want it to be something akin to maybe GTA Online, not in, how the systems work and stuff, but just like the nature of it as a product. It's attached to Last of Us Part 2, or it's attached to Grand Theft Auto 5, and it still stands as its own product, GTA Online. I kind of want Last of Us, if they make a Last of Us Online, I think if they go down that route where they treat it as its own entity and are really able to flesh it out, it could turn into something really good. And maybe, people who buy Last of Us 2, maybe there's an incentive there and there's like a decrease in, say, what is it? Say the price in the multiplayer component if you bought Last of Us Part 1 or Last of Us Part 2, but you bought the main game. So super excited for that, and that's actually going to be my second most hyped game. I'm going to say actually Cyberpunk Edges is out because Cyberpunk just looks so ambitious and crazy on a whole nother level. I think maybe my hype is a little decreased on 2 just because it looks so similar to Part 1. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for this week, guys. Not that long of an episode, but I didn't really go too in depth into too many things, everything, just kind of reacting to a lot of it. When we come back for the next episode, hopefully we're going to be talking about either Kanye album or Joker. We'll really be able to go and nitty gritty into a lot of this stuff. So I'm excited to get around to those stuff. Sorry I haven't been able to get an episode out and, share the videos, watch it or listen to it on iTunes. And I'll see you guys around for episode 7. See ya.